Hi, Dale coming to you from my garage again, and this last Black Friday a couple of months ago, we bought 6 Amazon Fire tablets when they're on sale. My wife uses these in her classrooms. Yep, we bought these with our own money. You might be surprised to learn that many teachers use their own money for their classroom and never get reimbursed. But hey, we may spend thousands of dollars every year, but we get to write off 250 big ones on our taxes. So we've got that going for us, which is nice. She wanted to have a way so that she could charge all the tablets at once, but still have a way to keep them secure. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I built this locking tablet charging box so that she can charge all of them at once, and it will lock so that nobody will be able to easily just reach in and grab one and take off with it. Before jumping into this build video, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that right now, the time that this is being created, we are in the COVID-19 crisis. And I pray that all of you, your family and friends are safe and well. I wanted to take this time to also thank all of the people that are still going to work every day, the grocery store employees, the convenience store employees, the doctors, the nurses, delivery people, restaurant workers that are doing takeout, and everybody else that is still going to work, putting themselves in harm's way of this virus so that people like me and all of us can get the care and items that we still need. I sincerely and truly thank you. Now, back to the build video. Come on, let's go.
I'm going to be making this project out of some poplar boards and a piece of scrap 1/2 inch plywood. The first thing I need to do is rip my boards down to their final width. That's one board at 2 3/4 inches and 2 boards at 6 1/4 inches. Now I need to drill down the 2 3/4 inch board to 1/2 inches thick. This will be used as a cross piece on the inside of the box to section off the tablet area from the power strip area. My planer makes quick work of this. Using my #1 most used jig in my shop, the crosscut sled, I attach a stop block and cut the 2 side pieces to 11 1/8 inches. I then adjust the stop block a bit and cut the front and back pieces to 12 inches. Now to route a dado in all sides to hold my bottom piece. My 1/2 inch bit was just a bit too wide for my scrap plywood, so I'm using my 1/4 inch bit and will make multiple passes. For the sides, I can cut the dado all the way through. For the front and back pieces, I don't want to go end to end with the dado, so I do a stop dado cut. The depth isn't super important, but mine is set about 3/8 of an inch. Now I can move the fence back a bit on my router and cut another pass the same as the first to get the dado to the correct width. Same as before, where the sides can go all the way through and the front and back pieces need a stop dado. And of course, I did this all on a test piece first to make sure that I had everything set up properly. My mama didn't raise no dummy. To remove the chance for any measuring mistakes, I take the 2 side pieces and clamp them flush on the front piece. I can then take the inside cross piece flush up against the side pieces. That will tell me exactly how long the cross piece needs to be. I can then mark it and cross cut it to length. I need to cut slots in the front and inside cross piece, but don't want to go all the way through the front piece, so I clamp on a stop block for my sled. I need to make sure that the slots in the front piece line up with the slots in the inside cross piece. To do that, I need to make sure that I take into account that the front piece extends across the side pieces and is longer than the inside cross piece. I need the inside cross piece to be centered on the front piece. This should be easily done by putting the front piece against the stop block, then adding a scrap board the same width as the side piece to align the inside cross piece against. This should, I repeat should, make everything line up perfectly. While I need the slot to not go all the way through the front piece, I do need it to go all the way through the inside cross piece. To do that when I'm cutting the cross piece, I'll use a backer board which will push the cross piece further from the back fence and will allow the blade to go all the way through. I do the first cut and check the alignment and it looks to be perfect. Looks can be deceiving though. Now I need to simply keep moving the stop block 1.5 inches at a time and cut the slots in both the front and cross pieces. You may have noticed that the blade does go a bit too far on the front piece and make a very slight notch on the other side of the dado. I'm okay with this because it's going to be on the bottom and no one's going to notice. And now to see how it lines up, and while it lines up perfectly, it is not centered, thus proving my mama did raise a dummy.
Okay, I made a couple of mistakes on my measuring, and basically it comes down to this side is 2.5 inches from the side, and this one is 2.25, which means most likely on 2 of these holes I cut on the wrong side, and that's the kerf and then my measuring. But then the bigger mistake came, and you can see how this lines up nice and neat here, where you put the spacer block here and everything lines up nice and neat. The problem here is this side does not. This side's too shallow. So the issue that I did, the problem that I had, was I cut this block from a piece like this. The problem is I used it as a spacer like this. It should have been used as a spacer this way. So the distance here is far more than the 3/4 of an inch, which threw everything off of this one. So this piece is going to the fire pit. I'm going to have to cut a new piece and start over with this one.
Okay, I've recut the piece and you can see I made a big mark on the spacer block this time so I wouldn't make the same mistake twice. I did have to try to get the stop block in the exact same spot each time, and you can see when I line this up, I missed a bit on a couple. That should not be a big deal as I'm using hardboard for the spacers and there is some bend to them. I'm back in business now. I'm using dowels as my joinery. I really like using dowels as they're very strong and help keep things lined up perfectly. I drill holes to the end grain of the side pieces and the face of the front and back pieces. I'm using dowels for the inside cross piece as well, but that piece is only 1/2 inches thick, so I had to swap to my 1/4 inch drill guides. I also had to adjust the hole offset. Super easy to do with this jig. I'm only using 2 dowels for this piece. Really, this piece could have been simply glued and clamped, but doing it this way helps me keep moving on the project. Cutting the bottom from the 1/2 inch scrap plywood was easy as pie. Just had to measure from the inside of the dados. It's assembly time. I'm quite sure I chose the most awkward and clumsy way to assemble this box, but I got her done. Just make sure to get glue in all the dowel holes as that's really where the strength comes from. Clamp everything down snugly and make sure everything is square before you walk away to let the glue do its thing. Now I'm moving on to the headboard dividers. I rip a piece of scrap hardboard on the table saw and then use my miter saw to cut out 5 pieces at rough widths. I want to cut an angle on each divider, so I first need to create a quick jig that will allow me to cut the same taper on each divider. I do this by simply using a scrap piece of plywood, then laying out the divider at the angle I want to cut it, then simply nailing down a couple of pieces of scrap wood that will allow me to place each divider into the exact same position, and then rip all 5 of them to the exact same shape. The lid will have 2 doors that split in the middle and open. I cross-cut both lid pieces at the same time to length and then rip them to the correct width. I'm going to want a good 1/8 inch gap between the lid doors to help let heat escape. I made a mistake on order of operation. I needed to drill a hole in the side piece large enough for a plug to run through. I should have drilled this hole before assembly. Now it's going to be a bit awkward to drill. Time to make it look purty. I'm painting the inside orange and the outside black to match my wife's college colors. I tape it all up and spray the inside first. I forgot to record the painting of the outside black, which is a shame as it was so exciting and I'm sure you would have wanted to watch. I'm using a continuous hinge for the doors. This hinge comes 48 inches long, so I need to cut both hinges to size. I'm using my Dremel tool for this, and it makes fairly quick work of it. I do need to file the edges a bit after, as they were pretty sharp. Installing the hinges was pretty uneventful. I simply clamped them in place, then used my self-centering Vicks bits to pre-drill for the screws. I followed that up with putting in a supplied screw into each hole and attach it to the box. Oh yeah, I did have to cut each screw to make them shorter or they would have stuck out the other side. Attaching the hinges to the lid doors is very similar, except I don't have to shorten the screws, and I also wanted them about 1/8 inch or so off the box to help with heat escape. Other than that, it was the same. Line it up, clamp it, pre-drill it, screw it. I do all of this for both lid doors. I'm going to attach a small chain on each door to keep it from falling open all the way. The chain will hold the doors open without letting them stress the hinges. These little stick-on pads will help keep the doors from crashing shut, as well as help keep that 1/8 inch gap all the way around. I simply peel and stick one at each point where the door will touch the box. We're getting close and I'm getting excited. Now I'm putting in the hardboard dividers. They are fitting perfect and I am really digging the way this is looking. In case you couldn't tell, I painted them black. The final step of the build is to screw on a lockable latch. I line up the latch, then pre-drill and attach with the included screws. I realize this certainly is not Fort Knox or anything like that, but it will discourage the quick reach and grab job. The only thing left to do now is to add the power strip, plug in the charging cables, and add the tablets. I only had these long cables for now, but storing the tablets works just as I had imagined it would. It's easy to put them in and it's easy to take them out. I'm calling this project a success.
Okay, here's the final product. Overall, I'm happy with the way it came out. This locking mechanism certainly isn't meant to be a replacement of a safe. It's simply there to keep people from walking by, reaching in, grabbing one and going. I think it's much more organized since I replaced it with these short 6-inch cables rather than those extra long ones I had at the beginning. You'll notice that there are 2 slots that are open. That's because my wife has loaned 2 of these out to people to use. Otherwise, when we get them back, they'll slide in here, we'll have the chargers for them, and they'll be charged up. I am worried a little bit about heat loss, so that's why I've got a little larger gap here, as well as I've got a decent sized gap where the lid closes against the box. I'm hoping that that gives enough ventilation for the heat to escape. I know this ain't your first rodeo. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, leave a comment below to let me know what you thought. Until next time, see ya.